The wait is finally over. It is time to swap IPL colours for national colours, and it is time for India to resume international cricket. Get your morning cups of coffee ready. It's going to be an Australia series. Can't get any bigger and better in modern day cricket than India versus Australia. 4 tests, before that, 3 T20Is, before that, 3 ODIs, the first of which is at the Sydney Cricket Ground. I couldn't get enough of Tom Moody and Gautam Gambhir during the IPL, so here they are, back and ready and raring to go in international cricket, not just resuming for India. Australia have played a bit of it, but most importantly for the fans as well at the ground. We're going to have as many as 5,000 members in the SCG. In fact, 50%, sorry, the SCG. And it's going to be some start to a cricketing series. Tom Moody, all set? Excited?
Yeah, looking forward to this. It always is great, whether it's played in India or played in Australia, both these teams going head-to-head. It's interesting over time how this contest between Australia and India, whether it be 50-over cricket, Test cricket, or even to a lesser extent T20 cricket, has become really one of the real features of the global fixturing, in the calendar year. So can't wait.
It was great to have the IPL back, Gautam, but there's another feeling when India cricket resumes.
100%. If you see that international cricket is all about playing international cricket, you don't play cricket to play IPL, you play cricket to play international cricket. And what better than playing against Australia and in Australia? SCG is just a fabulous venue to play cricket. Just the history behind the stadium and everything. I think Australia is a fabulous place, and I'm sure all the young cricketers wants to play for the country, and when they represent the country, it's a great honor.
Yeah, the toss has already gone down. Aaron Finch has won it. Australia going to have a bat first, which if you go by completed games of the SCG in recent times being before, we saw a different world. But that's a significant advantage, batting first. Let's go into the team straight away, because that's going to be the first point of discussion. Australia had an excellent series in England before the IPL, and Mitchell Marsh was one of the standout players that misses out from there. Steve Smith didn't play on account of concussion towards the ODI series in England, but he is ready and is back in spite of what was, you'd say, a mediocre IPL for the Rajasthan Royals captain. Finch, Warner, Smith, Labuschagne, Stoinis keeps his place. Glenn Maxwell and Alex Carey were in sizzling form in England. Pat Cummins, Mitchell Starc, Adam Zampa, Josh Hazlewood. In many ways, no real surprises. Tom Moody?
Yeah, pretty much as we expected. There's been a lot of talk around Cameron Green, the young, exciting all-rounder, to whether he was going to be selected. But as I said in the pre-show, I feel that he will play, but he may just be drafted in, whether it be game 2 or game 3. But pretty predictable, that side. It's always nice to have a settled side. It tells you something that the Australians have, I think, found what their formula is, their combination in their top 6, and plus their bowling combination.
Yeah, you say that, and Gautam, you look at this Australian side now, and you think there aren't too many vulnerabilities. Quality pace bowlers, good leg spinner, batting deep down, batsmen in the top 6 who can bowl, which is something India don't have. It's a formidable side as we look at a 50-over World Cup in 3 years' time.
No, absolutely. And when you have Glenn Maxwell batting at number 6 or number 7, it's just a lot of depth. Plus, Pat Cummins can bat as well. And they've got 4 quality bowlers, plus Glenn Maxwell, Marcus Stoinis, Labuschagne can chip in with a couple of overs. So it looks a very good side. But again, I think it all depends on, suddenly you see when David Warner and Steve Smith coming back into this playing element, it just gives them a completely different look to it. So that is what the quality players do to your playing 11.
Our team's thinking of the World Cup just now, Tom. It's hard to perhaps put these bilateral series in context. Yes, there's a World Cup Super League, which has already commenced at the international level. But our team's looking at the World Cup 3 years before.
I don't think the players are. I doubt very much whether anyone but maybe the head coach is, or the chairman of selectors. They tried to forecast what it's going to look like, but I think that they'll be thinking more so sort of making sure that they start the summer off well against India. They know that a win in this one-day series is important momentum going into the T20s, but more importantly, the Test matches.
All right, let's look at the Indian team, and I'll carry this conversation on with Gautam. And we know everything about the Indian team. Well, we know more about the Indian team in the last 24 hours than we did in the 3 weeks before that. Shikhar Dhawan and Mayank Agarwal will open, is what Virat Kohli has confirmed. So KL Rahul will stick to his middle order designated role. There's Shreyas Iyer At 4, Hardik Pandya plays. There's still not much clarity on whether he will bowl, but we're going to assume that he's going to carry on that little niggle of bowling from the IPL. Jadeja gets a game. Navdeep Saini complained of back spasm. Natarajan was added as cover, but Saini is deemed fit for this one. Shami and Bumrah form the rest of the pace contingent, and Yuzvendra Chahal is the sole wrist spinner. Gautam, thoughts on that team?
Expected. But again, I think if you see the top 6, yes, probably you've got Hardik Pandya batting at 6, and then you've got 5 bowlers, Jadeja at 7. Yes, I think you would always want to have your 6th bowler in your ranks, and which is always a great luxury for any captain. But then, if Hardik Pandya is fit enough to bat, obviously he should be playing, because he, as we all know, can win the game and change the game very quickly. So, but again, that there are not many options, because if you don't pick Hardik Pandya, you pick Manish Pandey, which anyways does not bowl. So, if I have to bat someone at number 6 or number 7, it has to be Hardik Pandya. But it'll be a great luxury if he starts bowling. You probably can just chip in with 3 or 4 overs as well. Yeah. It's not about bowling 10 overs in the game. Even if he can bowl 2 or 3 overs, just can take some overs of a guy who's struggling, that can be a great help for Virat Kohli, because if one of the bowlers have a bad day, he has no one to go back to. So Hardik Pandya probably, yes, if he's not 100% fit, probably if he's just even 50% fit, bowling fit, and can chip in with a couple of overs, would be a great thing.
There's this question that tends to be asked about Indian cricket and Hardik Pandya, Gautam, on he's definitely someone who walks into a T20 team purely as a batsman. Do you believe he also walks into the 50 over side purely as a batsman?
See, again, I think it's more to do with the form he had shown in IPL. Because if you see, he was batting at number 6, and Manish Pandey was actually batting at number 3. So if you push Manish Pandey at number 6 and you drop someone who's already been batting at number 6 and has shown a lot of form in IPL, probably makes no sense as well. I know where you're coming from. Yes, makes a very valid question whether he actually fits into the 50 over format just as a batter. See, but again, I think his current form has probably just gave him that nod of being playing at number 6. It's just about positions as well. Yeah, if Shreyas Iyer is not doing well, you can actually push someone like Manish Pandey at number 4. But Manish Pandey at number 6 and Hardik Pandya at number 6, I would definitely go with someone like Hardik Pandya just from the position point of view.
Yeah, that would have been the toss-up. If Hardik isn't bowling, then batsman for batsman, are you better served in a 50 over side Tom in Australia as Manish Pandey, who's done well in Australia, or Hardik Pandya in a team that's got a lot of guys that want to bat in the top 3 ideally? Is Hardik Pandya the right call?
Well, I'll throw it back to both you guys in that if you are planning for the future and the best balance for an Indian ODI side, a fit Hardik Pandya is an absolute no-brainer in the top 6, because he gives you what they're desperately needing is a capable batsman in the top 6 that can bowl, be your 6th bowler. So I think it's the right decision to pick him on the basis that, 1, he's carrying form into the series, 2, that he is the long-term lock in that position. So why not continue to develop his batting? And when he can bowl, we don't know whether he's going to bowl 2 or 3 overs in this series per game. You know that you've got the perfect player in an area where if you've got any weakness in that Indian team, it's in that position. So I would be persevering with him along those lines. I see Manish Pandey as the obvious one that puts pressure on other middle order specialist batsmen, and that's it. But you need to continue to invest time in Hardik Pandya, in my view.
Yeah, it takes me back to the question I asked Tom, Gautam, on do teams look at the World Cup even now when they make these selection calls? This is our ideal 11 for the World Cup. It always has Hardik Pandya in it, so we must have it. Or is it just, no, this is a 3-match series and whatever else the World Cup Super League brings with it, and therefore this is still the best team with Hardik Pandya batting at 6? Is this Indian team looking at the World Cup right now?
2023? I don't think so. It's too far right now. And they've got 2 World Cups before that. They've got 2 T20 World Cups. If anything, they would be looking at the T20 World Cup, and which obviously will set the tone with this 3 T20 series and then the series to follow. But I don't think so. 2023 is too far ahead, and you would depend on a lot of form and other things as well. At the moment, I think they would only look to win the series, and because, see, it's very important to start the tour really well, and it starts with an ODI series. You can take the momentum into the T20, and as Tom mentioned, then probably take it on from there into the test matches, which is probably the most important series as well. But yes, at the moment, I don't think so any of the teams would be thinking at 2023. All they would be thinking about is the T20 World Cup this year and the next year.
All right. One more selection call India had to make was who partner Shikhar Dhawan if Rahul continues his middle order role, which he now does. And they've gone with Mayank Agarwal, who debuted in the series in New Zealand. Gautam, happy with that?
Very happy, because we all know that he's going to play the test matches as well. So rather give him the go. Rather just get him used to. I know it's a different format, but you want to just get him into the mix of things as well. You give Shubman Gill a go. You're not sure whether he's going to open the batting in Test matches or not, but Mayank Agarwal is a certainty in Test matches. So you probably play him in the one-day series, and then even play him in the T20 series. He's a very good T20 player, and then probably make him play all the three formats and see where he is. Because I know it can go both ways, but if he gets runs in white ball cricket, it's going to help him in Test matches as well. Though it's a different format, but yes, I would definitely would start with Mayank Agarwal and try and give him a longer run in all the three ODIs and the T20s as well.
You go with that, Tom, that even if it is a different format, someone who is locked into your test side, as Gautam says, game time, whatever the format, can do no wrong.
Yeah, 100%. It makes perfect sense. And the Australian bowlers in the ODI series are going to be the same bowlers that are going to be in the Test series. So, as Gotham would know, as a former opening bat, just familiarising yourself with the rhythm of those bowlers is really important. So, he has the advantage of doing that through the shorter format of the game, leading into what we believe is, well, certainly I believe, is the most important series, and that is the Test series. So, yeah, look, to me, it was a no-brainer. And also, I think he is slightly the better player at the moment. And you've got to also take that into consideration as well, that his numbers are slightly better, and he is also, I think, slightly better player and going to give you the better and more consistent return.
Ronak, just want to add one more thing. See, you can play as many matches, practice games, you can play all the side games and stuff. Till the time, if you don't play one-day cricket, you don't play T20 format, and suddenly you go into the first Test match against Mitchell Starc, against the pink ball, against Josh Hazelwood and Pat Cummins, it's going to be very difficult. So this is probably the right time actually to give him a go in white ball cricket, and then probably it can help him in Test matches as well. Whether he gets runs or he doesn't get runs, it really doesn't matter. But at least he'll get the hang of the conditions and everything.
All right. I like that Tom stressed that for him, at least, the important one is the Test series. You can never be too sure as to who values the Test series more than the white ball series these days. But I like that you make that point, Tom, because the other question I want to ask you, if you look at that Australia side, I'm very happy they've gone full strength, their pace attack. Some chat on whether there would be workload management from the very beginning on Starc, Hazelwood and Cummins. So I want to ask you, the start of a long tour, 3 ODIs, 3 T20s, the 4 tests, and the fact that it is in unique circumstances. At what point do you start discussing workload for your bowlers, which Australia tends to do, I think, more than a lot of others, with Starc in particular?
Yeah, they do. And we also got to consider Starc, we can't forecast whether he's going to be in the Test side, but he was in and out of the Test side during the Ashes series. So, they're very much condition-based with his selection. But that aside, I think the Australians that were involved in the IPL would have had ample rest anyway. They've been in hotel quarantine. They would have done a lot of recovery in that environment. And with workload comes also the upside of that, and that is the making sure that you are keeping your bowling loads up. So, it's important that players continue to make sure they're bowling enough overs per week, as much as monitoring how many overs they bowl per week. So I think that the likes of Cummins, more importantly, because Hazelwood didn't play a lot for Chennai Super Kings, will need to make sure that he keeps the motor ticking over. Otherwise, to suddenly ask him to thrust himself into a Test series where the workloads suddenly do escalate, and if he hasn't got those overs in preparation, that's when you become unstuck.
As we talk about India's pace trio, and there was a question who the third seamer would be. Would it be Shardul Thakur? Would Natarajan have made a debut if he was just added to the squad on the eve of the game? Saini gets that call, Gautam. 5 ODIs for Navdeep Saini at an average of 60 so far. Impressive in the IPL, but what's the biggest challenge now to shift from bowling 4 overs in T20 in the UAE to bowling in Australia in 50-over cricket?
Well, it's going to be a great experience for him as well, because it's not going to be easy, and it's never been easy against Australia in Australia, irrespective of what side they play. It's just the conditions, just everything, just the entire atmosphere. Yes, he's got pace. Probably Virat Kohli likes pace more than someone who can bowl at 130, 135, but Navdeep Saini can clock 142, 143, or probably 145 as well. So which is going to be a good thing as well, and probably he's going to be playing the first Test match as well. Again, it's a very similar situation to what Mayank Agarwal is in. If you see, Ishant Sharma has been ruled out. So if Navdeep, Mohammad Shami and Jasprit Bumrah will most likely be your first 3 bowlers in Test matches, so rather give him a go and see how he plans out. And at the same time, yes, if India does really well, you can actually rest him in one of the ODIs and you can rotate your bowlers. But again, I think it's not about rotating because, to be honest, I think it's all about momentum as well. And we all know that if momentum shifts towards Australia, how dangerous can they be? If momentum comes towards India, how dangerous can India be? So both the sides actually know about this. So that's why they've got the best playing 11 on the park. And it all starts today. Whether they carry this momentum forward into the test matches, whichever side has that momentum will become a very, very threatening side in 4 test matches, which is again probably going to be the most important series of this tour.
Yeah, you've seen enough of these Indian fast bowlers, Tom. And that side, if you played on balance, you have Saini or Shami. Take your pick in the last four. Who comes in at 8? There could have been some temptation, perhaps, of playing Shardul Thakur, who can hold the bat a bit more at number 8. Do you believe this is the right call? Navdeep Saini is the best among the remaining options after Bumrah and Shami?
Yes, unless there's conditions where you know that you'll be able to exploit movement, swing and seam, particularly given Finch's trouble with the moving ball. So clearly the conditions are pretty fair, and that the surface is quite dry. I believe there's a decent covering of grass, but I don't think we're going to see any alarming movement. If the signs were overhead conditions, slightly tinge of green, a little bit of moisture, I'd be tempted to go with an attack that had a little bit more skill-based attack that could swing or seam the ball, which would bring in other selection options. But it looks like a pretty good surface. So Saini for me is the one you go with, just that extra bit of pace. But as Gotham said, it's important that he also gets exposed to, bowling in Australia, understanding what lengths he needs to be bowling in Australia, which is very, very different than it is in the subcontinent.
And Ronak, one more thing. If you pick someone like Shardul Thakur, then you might have to push Mohammad Shami bowling at one change. Because Shardul Thakur, you would end up giving him a new ball. With Navdeep Saini, actually, he can come one change as well. And you can start with Mohammad Shami and Jasprit Bumrah, your two best bowlers. So that's the reason. And that is what a captain thinks as well. That if I have Shardul Thakur, how can I use him the best way? And the only way and the best way I can use him is probably give him the new ball. And then I'm going to actually push my best bowler to bowl with a semi-new ball. With Navdeep Saini, because he bowls 140 plus, you can actually bowl him one change as well. So all those things also come into consideration as well. And that's the reason why I said that Navdeep Saini is a better pick than Shardul Thakur. If, as just Tom mentioned, if it's seaming and if it's swinging, yes, probably you can think of Shardul Thakur. But at the moment, if it's not swinging and seaming, you need to have someone who can hit the deck hard and actually bowl one change.
All right. Well, there are plenty of conversations that need to be had perhaps after watching India bowl 50 overs here on Jadeja's quota of 10 overs, how he's used, how he bowls, who comes in first change. We'll save that for our innings break show. But just to talk about what happened yesterday after Virat Kohli's press conference and just or media interaction, rather virtual media interaction. And if I could just get Tom and Gautam to weigh in on it. It seems like the kind of story we've rarely seen covering Indian cricket for a while now, on this slightly bizarre lack of communication between the captain and whoever in the administration on the key player, the white ball vice captain's injury status. Kohli says yesterday he wasn't happy at all about it, no clarity, not ideal, plenty of confusion. And the BCCI then later sends out finally an intimation that Rohit Sharma had to fly back after the IPL for a personal reason, to attend to his ailing father. Kohli gave us the impression in his interaction that he had no idea of it. He said we were expecting Rohit to be on the flight after seeing him play the last 3 games for Mumbai Indians. I'm trying to think of how you two make sense of that, Gautam. It's bizarre that there seems to be a little bit of blame for everyone here on communication.
That's not right. I think I have to back Virat Kohli on this. And he's the captain. He's the guy who's leading on the cricket field. He's the guy who's going to face the criticism. He's the guy who's going to face all the fire as well. So he should be always there in the mix. He should know exactly what's happening with all the players. And that's the responsibility of the selectors. That's the responsibility of probably the chairman as well. Virat Kohli should always be in the loop because he's the flag bearer of Indian cricket at the moment. And so if something goes wrong, and at the same time, we end up criticizing captain a lot. So we have to back Virat Kohli. If he was not given enough information about Rohit Sharma or XYZ, that's not fair on him because he needs to be in the mix for everything in what's happening in Indian cricket.
It's a strong indictment from the Indian captain of the process itself, whoever is in charge of these things, Tom. But in simpler times, newer times, could it been a communication between two key players and what's happening, or is that too simple now to assume?
Well, I think it's a little bit more sophisticated now because there's many more layers than it was even just 10 years ago, let alone 30 years ago when, I was considering walking out to the middle. But I also will connect the coach in this, because coming from obviously a coaching background, to me, it's also something that the coach needs to be totally aware of what the coming and goings of his players, what's the injury status of his players, because ultimately you are responsible for your whole support staff, which includes, the medical side, the strength and conditioning side. So, it's having a clear understanding of exactly what's going on. And if there is no clarity, is creating that situation where you have got clarity. The coach's role, is to try to take away as much pressure as possible on a captain. And so you allow the captain to lead with a free mind, and also, more importantly, bat with a free mind.
What? Yes, Gautam, please.
I'm just saying, I think when we talk about communications, when you drop a player, it's difficult to communicate. But when there's an injury issue, I don't think so. It's difficult to communicate. So obviously there is something somewhere missing. And yes, those things can happen when you drop a senior player. I can understand how difficult it is for the selectors or a coach to communicate to the senior player. But this is a completely different issue. It's an injury issue where there needs to be more clarity, and there is nothing wrong in it. If Virat Kohli is informed, and through the coach as well, obviously he's got too many things on his plate. He's thinking about his own batting, about the performance of the team, whether he will have Rohit Sharma, Ishant Sharma on the flight in Australia. He's going to himself miss 3 test matches, so he wants to have the best team. But there's nothing wrong. The more clarity, the better it is for everyone.
Is there a learning from this, though, Gautam, in terms of the amount of people that are involved in Indian cricket now? And we know the complexity of when players play the IPL. You think there's in some ways they are accountable to their franchise, so that there's a different staff, a different medical staff monitoring and whatnot. Can there be some learning from this? Perhaps Tom's mentioned this, perhaps rather Akash has mentioned this on the previous platform, that, have the Team India physio monitor this. Or Tom says, have the coach take responsibility. Can there be a simpler way to ensure this doesn't happen for a key player going forward?
See, Ronak, you can complicate as much as you want. See, that's what it is. But I think in this situation, you don't need too many people to be involved. You've got the head physio, you've got the head coach, you've got the chairman selector, and then you've got Virat Kohli. So you don't need any more people to be involved in this kind of an issue. Yes, you can involve so many other people. You can involve director, NCA, you can involve as many people as you want. But ultimately, it's actually if the right key men in this issue is the head physio and the head coach and the chairman selector. And then Virat Kohli eventually, who gets informed by the coach. Where is the complication? I don't see any complication if you don't want to complicate things. You can keep it as simple as you want, whether it's playing cricket, whether if you're not playing cricket, off the field activities. So it's about your wish, how many people you want to involve in these kind of things.
All right.
I think the learning out of it is quite simple. The learning is that there must be a process, and if there isn't a process, put it in place and religiously follow that process, whether it be through selection of selecting a player or dropping a player, whether that be an injury, communication, or whether that be some sort of personal reason. And obviously with Rohit Sharma, we're hearing, as you mentioned, Ronak, that there possibly is a personal situation. Well, let's be transparent, and unless he strongly ask for that to be kept confidential, but at least keep everyone informed that are in the important wheels of operation of the BCCI.
Yeah, and Ronak, just one more thing. See, again, even if it's a personal situation, you can actually fly Rohit to Australia. And there has been so many times when not 100% player has actually traveled. And test series is still a long way ahead. And even if you don't get fit for the first test match, the second test match, even if you get unfit and you come back home, there's nothing wrong because your head physio is already in Australia. So he can monitor the situation better. If you're carrying 18 or 19 players, you can actually fly him out straight away. And you've got the head physio who can look after him. And if he doesn't get fit before the test match, or if he's not fit for all the 4 test matches, you can fly him back. So there is no complication. He has to be there, to be honest, because he's that important.
Yeah, that's exactly where my next question was.
And what he's doing at NCA, he can do the same thing being in Australia. So where is the complication?
That's exactly what I was going to ask you guys as well. When the minute the personal issue was taken care of, when he was ready to go from Mumbai to Bangalore, that was a call taken by someone, send him to the NCA instead of send him on the first available flight to Australia. There are these rigorous quarantine rules. The best chance of having Rohit available for either the full test series or as many games in Australia would be if we send him there and manage the injury there, like they took a call, I guess, with Ridhiman Saha, who also carried an injury to Australia, and we presume now is being managed over there. Should that have just been the call? The minute Rohit said, personal issues done, I'm available to resume rehabilitation, should he have just been on a flight to Australia, Tom?
But what we don't understand is that maybe that is the process the BCCI go by, is that once a player is in India, he has to go through the process of rehabilitation through the NCA and then moving on to the tour from that point. So we don't know whether that is the process that the Indian cricket team have. I agree with Gautam. I think that, as soon as his personal situation was cleared up and respected, get him out to Australia as quick as possible so he can acclimatise to the jet lag and get himself ready, whether it be for the first, second, third, fourth, whatever test match.
Right. I guess it's taught us one thing. We mentioned transparency. We used to all assume that it was only us in the media and outside Indian cricket that were kept in the dark. Clearly, transparency helps even those within Indian cricket. So let's table this conversation for now. Game's already underway, and we will get thoughts from Tom Moody and Gautam Gambhir as the event all happens. Thank you very much, Gautam. Tom, catch you at the end of the Australia innings. It's such a big day. International cricket resumes not just in Australia, but in other parts of the world. You'll have coverage on ESPN Cricinfo. It's a big day for Australian fans. They're back in the crowds. It's a poignant day for Australian cricket. Black armbands will be donned in memory of Dean Jones, this being the first international game since the passing of Dean Jones during the IPL. It's also 6 years on since the tragic passing of Philip Hughes. So there was a tribute observed by both teams just before the start of play today. So we'd see you for mid-innings analysis on ESPN Cricinfo Match Day. We leave you, of course, with the best sentiment of the day. Cricket fans are back in the crowd.